Hmm. How's everybody doing today? It looks like we're live. Yeah. Yeah. Let me see. Copy. X may be down. I might not have a post. Hmm. Uh-oh. That shouldn't affect the show too much. It says, whoops, you've already said that. Huh, let's refresh. While you're waiting, be sure to drop a like on today's episode. Share with somebody. If you want to do a super chat, I'll give you about 5 minutes at the end today to talk about it. Today should be a little bit of a shorter episode. It says, whoops, you've already said that. Maybe I have. Maybe I haven't. X is being really funky today. I didn't even change the camera angle. That's fine. Okay, there it is. Alright. We'll jump right into it, but yeah, make sure y'all are dropping a like. If you would like to give me a super chat, I'll be sure to give you a short segment at the end of the day, and we'll talk about it. But today is... Is everything set up? Alright. Today is Wednesday, February 18th, 2026. This is episode number 57 of Addressing the Issues. It seems the hope that I had yesterday in the Iran situation was slightly misinformed or preemptive. News today is, kind of changed the story that we might not have war to. We're probably going to have a war. It seems that the 50 fighter jets moved towards the Middle East likely won't be a bluff. Well, it's been said that talks went well in Geneva with Iran. It seems that they either are not going fast enough for the U.S.'s liking, or major points have not or will not be agreed upon. One presidential advisor allegedly told the media the boss is getting fed up. Some people around him warn him against going to war with Iran, but I think there is a 90% chance we see kinetic action in the next few weeks. Vice President J.D. Vance claimed talks were going well, but in other ways, it was very clear that the president has set some red lines that the Iranians are not yet willing to actually acknowledge and work through. So far, the assets deployed to the region include fighter jets, F-22 Raptors, F-16 Fighting Falcons, F-35 Lightning IIs, that's weird to say, F-15 Strike Eagles, along with logistics planes, the KC-135 Stratotankers, C-17A Globemaster IIIs, KC-46 Pegasuses, I don't think that's a word. We'll just go with KC-46 Pegasus, along with other planes, including the E-3 Sentry radar planes, U-2 Dragon Lady spy planes, E-11A Battlefield Airborne Communications nodes, EA-18G Growler electronic warfare jets. He's joined a slew of other assets already staged in the region, including the A-10 Thunderbolt II, MQ-9 Reaper drones, and Special Operations MC-130s. A lot of these most recent planes deployed were, the last finishing touches if you did want to stage an attack with communications, electronic warfare, and spy capabilities. These would be the last things you need to be ready for an imminent invasion, an imminent war. but this does not include naval assets staged in the region, which are the USS Abraham Lincoln Strike Group, which has 3 Arleigh Burke-class escorts, 5 independently deployed Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, 2 in the Mediterranean and 3 in the Central Command region, the USS Gerald R. Ford Carrier Strike Group, which is accompanied by 3 Arleigh Burke-class destroyer escorts, and at least 2 nuclear submarines in the region, with at least 1 accompanying each carrier strike group. You normally wouldn't deploy this much capabilities, these many assets for no reason. You would only spend this amount of money to deploy them to the region if you had a reason for doing so. And the price per barrel of oil agrees, rising 4% since the news of the movement of these resources to the region. There have been over 150 cargo flights to the region so far. What do these planes do? Drop bombs, carry troops. So fighter jets, the F-22s, F-16s, F-35s, F-15s are for aerial support. Logistics planes, which are capable of dropping bombs, not as big of ones as you've seen in Operation Midnight Hammer. Logistics planes carry troops, aerial refueling equipment, tanks, stuff like that. And these other planes, like I said, radar, U-2 takes pictures. Battlefield communications node provides a waypoint for military communications to get through to command, whether it be to other ground radar stations or to satellites that come back to the U.S. And the Growler electronic warfare jet is used for just as what it says, electronic warfare, jamming electronic signals behind enemy lines. Some of these, like the MQ-9 Reapers, do have precise strike capability used for attacking enemy troops, enemy formations. Thunderbolt, the A-10 Thunderbolt 2 is close air support, and lots of C-130 variants are used for strikes themselves, big guns. So yeah, that's what these planes do. They're not taking people for vacations. How about that? They're not a Delta flight to Cabo. These are a little bit more not fun than that. It's not taking all these people on a quick Middle Eastern vacation. No matter how many people you know that enjoy vacationing in Iraq or Iran or wherever else in that area, Syria. Nobody vacations there. Maybe Somalia. Maybe some of you would like a vacation to Somalia. I thought about that once. But no, beyond the U.S., other countries in the region are preparing for all-out war. The Israeli Home Front Command and Megan David Adam have been instructed to prepare for a full-scale war with Iran. A high-level defensive alert has been issued across Israel. The chief of Israel's Home Front Command, Major General Sheikh Halper, reportedly claimed in a classified Knesset briefing, "We are preparing for a large multi-front scenario, which would likely involve the Houthis and, what is that? I don't think it's not Hamas. It is the one in Lebanon. I have it here somewhere. Hezbollah would likely involve the Houthis and Hezbollah, which would be the multi-front scenario along with Iran. Israeli officials also postponed a security meeting until Sunday, with officials assessing an imminent U.S. strike on Iran. Other Middle Eastern states have had military aerial assets in the air for most of the day today, seemingly monitoring the area of the Arabian Gulf for preemptive strikes. Sources have claimed that the time of attack could range from the coming hours to weeks, with some officials claiming that the president has not yet made up his final decision yet, to other officials claiming that forces weren't deployed just to sit on bases for long weeks. I guess they're not going for a vacation. The last time President Trump gave Iran a 2-week ultimatum to come to the table and agree to a deal, he struck within 3 days. So that's what history would tell us. Officials claim that this would likely be a weeks-long full-fledged war, unlike the Venezuela operation that lasted hours, and the scope is much larger than that of the 12-day war, which happened in June of last year. This is also expected to be a joint operation with Israeli forces. In other news, which I believe is related on many levels, President Trump has also been pushing towards an end to the Russia-Ukraine war strongly in recent days, with the recent meeting in Geneva days after the U.S.'s meeting with Iran. I don't feel like the timing of this is a coincidence at all. The U.S. is a major supplier of Ukraine's weapons for the war front currently, a supply that's rapidly dwindled the U.S.'s reserves during this ongoing war with Russia. Starlink cut off access to Russia's communications networks in recent days, and Ukraine has finally began to retake territory for the first time since 2023. However, the demands to the peace deal are still unfavorable to Ukraine, which will be expected to cede the Donetsk and Donbas regions, which previously held a referendum to cede themselves before the war broke out. A little bit of color revolution there that sparked this war. However, President Trump has chimed into the matter, claiming that Ukraine better come to the table fast. It seems that the U.S. is seeking to divert weapon flow from Ukraine towards Iran, and if that were to happen, Ukraine would likely lose more land than any time previously in the war, and it would likely happen fast due to their inability to defend themselves. Russia has claimed that it will be willing to fight Ukraine forever to achieve its goals, meaning a peace deal before the weapons supply dries up would likely be in Ukraine's best interest to maintain a sovereign nation status. President Zelensky is currently accusing President Trump of unfair pressure in peace talks, and President Trump is seemingly alluding that the U.S. priorities are shifting from the Eastern Europe battlefield to a future battlefield in the Middle East. So that's where we are for today. I told you it would be a short one. There was a lot of research I did for this, and it only lasted all of 13 minutes. But that's where we are with the Ukraine-Iran situation. It actually seems that the reason that these peace deals are being pushed so hard upon Ukraine right now is that the U.S. wants to divert its supplies, all of them, to the Middle East for what is expected by many top officials to be a prolonged conflict. I've been told that in the global war on terror, we were told it would just be a couple of weeks and we'd be done. And that resulted in 20 years of war. So, never expect it to go as perfectly or as short as claimed by officials. There are things that happen on the battlefield that make changes, make turns, change of plans, stuff like this. And I don't expect it to just be a quick multiple week operation. When they say multiple weeks, it means multiple months, multiple years, raising oil prices, and lots of casualties. But that's where we're at with that. I don't think the two are exclusive. I don't think these two ideas that Ukraine needs to sign a peace deal quickly and the Iran buildup happening are mutually exclusive. There are finite resources to fight wars. I guess you could generate a war economy, but we're not at war. I don't think anybody would agree with that. But if we do go to the war, it makes it much easier to convince people that a war economy is good. Just jumping into it with Iran, but we'll need at least some things to start and sustain for the first couple of days. This is more likely a U.S. show of force rather than preparation for a long-term hot war. That's what I thought yesterday. I thought this was gunboat diplomacy at its most expensive. I don't believe that anymore, especially given reactions throughout the region, particularly Israel's claiming that they need to have their medical services prepared for a hot war. They need to have their defensive arrangements prepared for a hot war. They're going to be the ones that are in firing range of the Houthis, Hezbollah, Iran. The U.S. particularly isn't. I guess the ships that are stationed in the region, the military bases that are in the region are also, they are at risk. They are definitely within strike range. But I don't think that we'd put all of these things in strike range for no reason. Because, a couple good placed missiles could blow up a large portion of the U.S. Air Force, a large portion of the U.S. Navy right now. And given our $40 trillion in debt, we don't have much money to pay to replace it right now. Lockheed Martin isn't going to give you fighter jets for free. They'll just sell them to somebody else who will pay. So I think that's where we sit. I think we are looking at more of a long-term hot war here than we are looking at a show of force. That's where I was yesterday. I believed it was just a show of force. But, once more information comes out and you see that these strings are being pulled not just in the Middle East, but in Eastern Europe for these supplies, for these warfighting materials, it looks a lot more like the U.S. is getting fully prepared as opposed to a little bit of gunboat diplomacy, show of force, flexing muscles on the shore of Iran. And Iran itself is flexing its muscles back. It's worked on drills to blockade the Strait of Hormuz, which would cause a massive disruption in oil supply. But along with that, there was a notice to airmen in Iran. They were practicing missile strikes, which were, I believe, ship-destroying missiles. I don't know if that's the technical term, but that was what they are used for. They're used to strike ships. So it seems that everybody's on edge, and agreements aren't being made. Nobody right now wants to back down until they get their voice heard. And I think that's where we are right now. I think we're getting really, really close to all-out war. Because nobody on either side wants to back down. Iran wants its nuclear weapons for defense. They want ballistic missiles for defense. Those are two red lines for the U.S., two red lines for Israel. And then once any party strikes, it's going to be all-out war. We're playing with fire here. Absolutely playing with fire. Even into Eastern Europe, just conceding large portions of Ukraine because we want to do this. I don't know. I hope you're right. I hope this is the finest demonstration of gunboat diplomacy the U.S. has ever seen. But I think, recent history points to something much different. That's all we have for today. Make sure you guys are dropping a like, sharing if you want to do a little bit of fear-mongering. We do a little bit of fear-mongering here. It's not fun. Well, it's a little fun, but it is what it is. I'll see if there's been any new things on, new updates on what's been going on. It's been tons throughout the day. More planes landing, more planes moving, more jet fuel being burnt. Okay, it says that the Ford aircraft carrier, along with accompanying destroyers, is still in the Atlantic Ocean and has not yet crossed the Strait of Gibraltar, which is good. But once it gets there, it is bad. So, oh, here's another update. President Trump has met in the White House Situation Room with national security advisors to discuss Iran. It was told the region should be in place, or all U.S. forces deployed to the region should be in place by the middle of March. So maybe we're a month out. Maybe it's not a couple hours, but closer to a couple of weeks. But it does seem like it's going to happen. There's a lot of moving parts here. Lots of people, whether it be Pentagon officials, national security advisors, U.S. troops, naval troops, airmen, planes, boats. Lots of things are being moved around. You know, and one slip up on either side it would be all out war. That's where we are, at least for right now. That's all the updates I have as of 5:15 on Wednesday, February 18th. But there are going to be more updates in the coming days. It's going to be more assets being moved around, I'm sure of it. Getting everything just right for war. Getting everything just right to pay more for a tank of gas. Isn't that stellar? Gas hit $3 here the other day. I was so upset. And yeah, make sure you guys are dropping a like, subscribing on YouTube, following on Kick, following on Rumble. Sharing this with somebody, might want to hear what's going on in the Middle East, what's going on in Eastern Europe. There's not much that's been going on the U.S. front today. I guess we're way too focused on foreign wars as opposed to the affordability crisis in our nation. But it is what it is. Maybe we'll get back to caring about that my gas costs over $3 a gallon soon. Because I would prefer that. It's too expensive. It's way too expensive. Oh, I guess I also want to thank you guys for sticking around this long. Like I said, there wasn't much to cover outside of this today. Maybe there will be more domestic news tomorrow, but it seems that all the, big picture stuff is happening outside of the U.S. right now, I guess aside from that meeting at the White House today. But yeah, we'll sign off here. If there's any more chats that I missed, let me check YouTube real quick. Okay. It doesn't seem like I missed anything on YouTube. I'm still getting spammed on Kick by bots. It's absolutely incredible. I don't know who you guys are. Yeah, to all my people on the East Coast, I hope you get home safe. To my people further west, I hope you finish up your workday strong and get home safe as well. I'll see you guys again tomorrow, hopefully at 4:45. I was late again today. Go figure. But that's where we're at. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll talk to you again very soon.